DP driving here. Today is about what I like to call the attack or the episode. It's a tricky subject matter. I've seen a lot of people have it. I've one-on-one up and close personally dealt with it. Most of the medical people don't know what it is, what's going on, why it happens, etc., etc., etc. I'll try to vaguely describe it in some sense because it happens differently in people, different causatives, different symptoms, etc. So it's not like a one-to-one, apples to apples. But essentially what you get is some kind of attack or episode. And like usual, there's a spectrum of severity on that, both in its presentation and in its symptoms. So what usually happens is the person will seize up in their abdomen, or if it doesn't seize up, they'll be going through a period of constipation and gas, possibly. It can manifest as abdominal pain. It can manifest as like an attack or episode coming on you, almost like a hypoglycemic attack where your extremities go cold, you get all sweaty perhaps, your face might go pale, you might shake, you might start to see, like your vision might start going black in some sense. Your heart could start racing. You could feel cold all over the place. So that part's usually different on everyone. You could lose consciousness. You could feel like you're going to lose consciousness. You could feel like you have to lay down because you think you're going to lose consciousness. So you don't have to have all those. It's different on every single patient. But it's theoretically, or technically, I don't know which of the two on that one, the same thing, or the same problem in everyone. Usually there's history of problems with these people. Usually they have some kind of leaky gut, irritable bowel syndrome, either constipation or diarrhea or alternating. Usually they're sensitive people. Usually they have dysglycemic issues where they can't handle carbs and sugars very well. Usually there's hormonal imbalances, especially with especially with cortisol. The list goes on. I can't really think of it. So this is kind of like a vague video here. So this is where like all the medical people start scratching their heads. They don't know what's going on. Let's do all sorts of CTs and run everything and do everything. And, I don't blame anyone for any of that. I mean, sometimes it's good to rule out heavy stuff, which is great, that's fine. But I will say in like 99.9% of the times, what's happening is two things. The first thing is, most of the time, if not all, probably all, there's some kind of constipation-y issue where the colon can't push the bolus of excrement through the piping or tubes. Now, with that being said, if you have SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, there's a natural lockup anyway in that process because there's a motility problem at the heart of it all. But that's a whole nother video. But that is kind of built into this video because at the heart of this, there could be a motility issue. With that being said, most of the time, the person ate something funky or something the day before, because you have to remember, from mouth to anus is like 20 hours. And if you have constipation, it might be longer, 25, 30 hours. So this is something you ate a while ago, not just a few seconds ago. Now, with that being said, you might have drank or ate something very recently, and it could have triggered what's known as the gastrocolic reflex of the stomach. As the stomach expands with new food, the lower GI starts to propel things out towards the anus. So that's why a lot of animals and humans, when they eat, afterwards they have to go to the bathroom through that gastrocolic reflex. And if your motility is working fine, then there's that. If the motility, let's not even say motility, if the colon or small intestine or something gets stuck, then the body will shunt all the blood in an autonomic fashion towards the problem. But the problem with that is all of your blood from your head and everywhere else gets thrown into the abdomen to try to help this issue. When that happens, you might start feeling lightheaded. You might start feeling your extremities getting cold. If you have anxiety or hypochondria or any of that stuff, you could start freaking out. And then it just starts amplifying the problem. So essentially what you're dealing with is a stuck colon with blood shunt, and then you're draining the areas away from the abdomen, causing the person to feel dizzy, lightheaded, sweating, panicking, rapid heart rate, all the vasovagal autonomic nervous system symptoms. Now, with that being said, if the body doesn't push that excrement forward, you could pass out. I don't know. You could have some kind of incident because your body will keep trying to push it until something happens. Because you can't have an obstructed bowel. That's a medical emergency if that proceeds forward for an extended period of time. Your body will not tolerate that. So your body essentially is trying to help itself. But sometimes the body's not perfect, and in the process, you could get knocked unconscious or whatever. Not knocked out, you could go unconscious, etc., etc., etc. And then there's that. So that explains the attack. Usually the body is successful at pushing the excrement forward, at least past some kind of colon kink or some kind of kink in the road that's getting stuck on. But usually it's from something you ate, yesterday. And usually, if you haven't figured it out yet, and I say that because people eat and then 20 hours later, this is what happens. So sometimes there's a delayed reaction. If you haven't figured out which foods constipate you. Now, something that's even worse is if you eat a food that constipates you and you eat a food that causes gas, because then you have a stuck colon with gas pushing more on it, and then you can have a real problem. Usually the body clears it. So, not that I should make recommendations on the video, but it's pretty decently important to make sure your small and large intestine are working pretty good. It's pretty decently good to identify any and all triggers, most time foods, that will lock you up. Now, yeah, there's drugs that can unlock you, antispasmodics and other things. There's herbs too, peppermint, all that stuff, fennel, other things. But you need to know that first. Then you need to also strengthen your autonomic nervous system that your adrenals and brain and nervous system controls. And then you also have to make sure your motility is efficient. And it kind of gets into something as simple as making sure you have enough fiber in your diet, enough hydration in your diet, if you will, that you have a bowel movement routine, that you're regular. If it gets into more SIBO-like hypomotility issues, there's various motility medications and herbs and other things that can help keep the motility flowing. But in essence, this is what I like to call the attack. And I don't really like to call it that, but I've seen it enough times, over a dozen times. And like I said, I've been in person during these attacks with other people multiple times, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 maybe times. I've seen people pass out from it. I've helped people to the ground and helped them come to. I've seen it. I've been in it. I've seen it. I know exactly what that is. The solution isn't always easy though. The solution is just what I said. Identify the issues. Work on the autonomics. Make sure the motility is good. Make sure your hydration and all that stuff is good. And then upregulate those that autonomic control so that you have a stronger nervous system to handle it. And like always, no one's going to be perfect. But I thought I'd make a little video on that because it's such a common scenario. I felt like there should be a video made on that. So anyway, and always make sure you have a team of healthcare practitioners working on you. These kind of things, you have to make sure medically some of this stuff is ruled out before you get into the functional approach of that. But most of the time it's a functional issue. So anyway, that's the video. Hopefully you found something useful out of that. Send this video to any of your friends and family and relatives and other people that might enjoy it. Subscribe, hit that notification bell. Like the video to please the algorithm. And like always, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks.